In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to write mathematical formulas into Moodle. Firstly, using the native tools that exist within the Moodle editor, but then if you run out of capability within those tools, we can add more advanced features to your mathematical formula. So let me start basic. The first thing to note is that within the Atto editor, there's already an inbuilt maths formula creator. So under the drop-down list, click on the icon that looks a bit like a calculator, and that will open up this maths editor. And the formula that I want to create today is one which is for present value, future value. I'm just going to shrink the screen a little bit so you can see the formula that we're intending to build. It's shown here. So the first thing to note is in the equation editor, it's split really into three parts. A set of tools at the top, an area which is where the formula will appear, and a preview of that formula. This will make much more sense as I start to build it. So the first thing to do is explore the sorts of controls that are available underneath these various tabs at the top. And it's this last tab that's got the most, I think, interesting features to it. I'm going to start here. But in order to start this formula, much of it I can just simply type as if it's plain text. So I can type PV equals FV, and now I want to add a fraction. So I look to the options here. I can see something that's quite close. It's this one here. And what you might notice is that this has put in this is a syntax called latex or text. So it's put in the sort of computer code for that. But importantly, in this preview down here, we can see what that might look like. And that helps us better understand how to write this formula now. I can change this, make that number 1. In the bottom row, I want to type in brackets 1 plus R. But it's about here I run out of steam. The editor that's in Moodle is okay, but it doesn't have all of the mathematical capabilities that you would normally expect in a normal sort of mathematical formula. And one of the notably absent ones is to the power of. Now I can see things which are close, and in fact one of the things I often do when I'm not sure is I might look at see how some of these other ones are built. And I can look at this one and it looks like the things which are above the line have this caret or upward facing arrow. So that's a cheat's way of getting something that's close. I happen to know because I write quite a lot of these formulas that to the power of is the upward facing arrow, the caret, and then you just put in whatever you want. In this case, it's to the power of n. That's fine because I know it, but it's not fine if you're trying to build these from scratch and you don't have that embedded knowledge. So in a moment, I'm going to show you a different, perhaps more flexible way to be able to add formulas to your Moodle content. But let me just finish this process first. So I've got a formula that I'm happy with. The preview satisfies the requirements here, so I'm ready to shove that into my course. So I hit Save Equation. And when you're still in the editor view, it still looks pretty uninteresting. It's basically just this string of text. But I might also, before I finish this off, I might choose to make that text larger. Because it is just text, if I want to draw attention, visual attention to this formula, I can do a number of things. I could, for instance, make it a larger text, like heading large, so that when I actually do save it, you'll see that not only has it converted that into the mathematical formula, but it's much larger than the text below it. So that's fine, that worked, but it wasn't necessarily as straightforward as we'd like, and you've got to kind of know or guess some of this syntax. So let me show you another approach that you may choose. There are other editors online that do the same thing to write these formula. And here's one that I've found that's quite useful. It's got much more capability to it than the Moodle editor. It's easier, I think, to write things in it. But the important thing, it uses the same syntax. So once we've got our formula right in this tool, we can copy it across into Moodle. So let me show you that. So I'm going to launch that. It launches in this little pop-up window. It gives you a sample formula. In fact, you've got a number of different samples that you can load in. That's always good because it can help you to work out how to build it. But I'm going to use the same logic as before and just start. I'm going to remove everything that's there, and I'm just going to start typing. PV equals FV. Okay, I want to introduce my fraction. Where do I find that? So there's a lot more menus here and a lot more options that you can do. It's really very sophisticated, this tool. But it's this set of menus here, second on the right hand side, that I think have got the more common mathematical features in them. And so here we go. We've got, again, our thing for fraction. So again, I'm simply kind of following my intuition a little bit here, putting things where I expect them to go. Okay, now we need to raise that to the power of. So I'm going to look around and see whether I can find something which looks like to the power of. For instance, in this menu, I can see x to the power of. So that's pretty close. So I'll add that in. It's actually added x to the power of, and then I'll put in our n. Now, as it turns out, we don't want that x. We just want it to the power of n. So it's actually added a little bit more than we want, and we can backspace, take that x away. And we're now at a point where we've got the formula that we want. So again, it's achieved the same outcome as the native editor in Moodle, but there's just many more mathematical formula and principles that you can use in this more sophisticated editor. So now that we have that, we've effectively got that syntax that we need for Moodle. So I can simply copy all of this. I can toggle back to the Moodle editor. I can, surprisingly, I'm going to go back in and add a new formula. But in this case, we've already got the LaTeX commands that make this work. So I can simply paste those in. And now you'll see visually here the representation of that formula. So I think that the second approach, where you're using this more sophisticated editor, is really there for if you outreach the capability of the native feature. And for most people that do lots of maths, they'll do that fairly quickly because it's really just a fairly primitive editor that's built into Moodle. Whereas here, we've got all manner of very, very sophisticated mathematical models that we can apply.